welcome back to the San Francisco Design Center in person. So we're super excited to present the Manifesting Meaning keynote with these three fabulous designers and Alisa Carroll this morning. First off, I wanted to do a few thank yous. Thank you to Hune for providing all of the furniture that you see on stage, which is part of the Madeline Stewart collection. Thank you to Benjamin Moore for helping put this panel together and partnering with us to make sure that it happened. Just curious, do any of you guys know what the Benjamin Moore color of the year is? Close? Emily?
I've got it.
You know it, I know.
Raspberry blush.
So if you're wondering why I'm wearing a pink suit in the middle of the fall, it's my homage to them and my thank you.
Woohoo!
So I hope you can all join us after the keynote address. We're having a reception in the Benjamin Moore showroom. It's going to feature the Haikuists, the Lady Falcon Coffee Club, and Saltwater Bake Shop. All of those are female-owned businesses in the spirit of the keynote here, and I hope you enjoy it. Alisa Carroll is our moderator today, editor-in-chief of Henry Magazine, and it's all yours, Alisa.
Thank you, Michael.
Take care.
Hi, guys. This is so nice. I just feel, right? We all feel so lucky to be back together. And I feel so blessed to be here with these three women that I've had the pleasure of knowing for many years now, except for Noz, whom I've just met, and we've done 2 panels in a week together, which is awesome. But first, where did he go? Michael, I just wanted to give a heartfelt thank you to Michael Moore, who has really been a champion of this talk, because in the wake of the overturn of Roe v. Wade, he immediately proposed a panel that would be a women-driven discussion. So he's a huge supporter, and we so appreciate that energy. So Michael, wherever you are, thank you for everything you do. Thank you. We also want to thank Lauren Corbin and her team at Benjamin Moore for co-presenting this forum for exploring intentional work. We will be up in Benjamin Moore after the talk, as you know, being treated to other women-owned businesses, Lady Falcon Coffee, Saltwater Bake Shop, and the Haikuists, which I'm really excited about, are going to be creating custom poems to kind of support our journey towards mindfulness this morning. In that spirit, I wanted to just start this morning with a little quote from Emerson, which is that the only person you are destined to become is the person that you decide to be. And that's why we wanted to gather in that spirit today, because as we all know, as women, as designers, we are so privileged, right, to be in this space and to have the freedom to talk about this, unlike our sisters in Iran. However, our ancestors got us here today. We are so lucky. And we just wanted to take a moment to honor that, and then to talk about how each of you are bringing your values and your mindset into your work. So they really need no introduction. I'm going to get through this quickly. This is always the part. So Kelly Finley is the founder of Joy Street Design, based in Oakland and Atlanta. Her projects include homes and commercial spaces throughout the Bay Area and Atlanta, Georgia, where she's also launched an office. Earlier this year, she was a designer of the Kips Bay Show House in Palm Beach, as was Ms. Noz. A former lawyer, Kelly holds just a couple of impressive degrees: a law degree from Stanford, a business degree from Emory, and she also studied interior design and architecture at UC Berkeley. Kelly is also a founding member of the amazing Black Artists and Designers Guild, which I hope, if you are not aware of yet, you will go and check out. They're an organization building a more equitable and inclusive creative culture by advancing a community of independent Black makers in creative industries, and they helped drive the creation of the incredible Obsidian virtual concept house. I don't know if you had a chance to see that. That was in 2021 and based virtually here in Oakland. And finally, in 2018, Kelly launched Joy Street Initiative, the nonprofit arm of her business, which is, talk about life goals. I mean, she actually formally set up a 501(c) and began her first pro bono project, interior design for Elizabeth House, a transitional home for women escaping domestic violence. No big deal. Kelly Finley, thank you. Emilie Munroe. Emilie and I have known each other since oh God, probably a decade ago when we sat across the studio at J. Jeffers, where I was doing PR and she was a designer. She was there for 6 years. And of course, she now has Studio Munroe. Her work includes residential and commercial spaces on Broadway and Hawaii, all over the place. She was named a House Beautiful Next Wave designer in 2017 and a rising star of design by Traditional Home in 2021. And she also studied her, or rather began her interior design career at UC Berkeley. So Emilie, so great to be sitting here with you for the first time. Welcome. And Noz is the founder of Noz Design. Her recent projects include the new Fillmore space of our beloved jewelry boutique Fiat Lux, the new San Francisco atelier for jewelry superstar Harwell Godfrey, which Kelly is wearing. Are you wearing that, her too? Yes. Noz has a secret jewelry blog too. That's amazing. Sorry. And she also was a designer at the 2022 Kips Bay Decorator Show House in Palm Beach. In 2020, she was named an Architectural Digest Rising Star and House Beautiful Next Wave Designer. She holds a BA in Economics with a minor in Art History from the University of Pennsylvania. Noz. So obviously, needless to say, these are some great women to be talking to this morning about bringing your value system and your mindfulness to your work. They've each had their practices, I would say, roughly around 10 years. Yours maybe 8, yours a little longer. I wondered if you wouldn't mind if we just started with a quick origin story for each of you, just to bring everyone up to date on how did you begin in the industry, if you pivoted from other practices, and how and why you decided to start your own business. Maybe if we could just do a couple minutes on that. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. There we go. I was a practicing attorney. I was a litigator at a large law firm in San Francisco, and I actually loved it. Thought I wanted to be a partner there, and I got on a very, very bad case where I was living in D.C. It was just traumatic in a lot of ways. And when I returned, I knew I needed to just have a hobby or something, some kind of outlet. So I took one class. I took a drafting class because I'm a secret nerd. And I was like, I'll do this in the evening after work, and I did that at Berkeley Extension. And I was like, oh, this is fun. Then I took another class, then I took another class, and like 2 years in, I was practically finished with the entire program. Still no intention of starting a business or anything. My husband's job took us to LA, and I decided to take a chance and hang out my shingle for design. So I started the business in 2011, and being in a new city, I actually ended up having a child. Unexpectedly. And so everything was a little slower. I was still doing legal work on the side. And when we moved back to the Bay in at the end of 2015, I was like, it's time to, do it or don't do it. So I gave up my law license and I started advertising and actually trying to make it work. So in 2016, I got an office. I hired my first employee. Is that 2016? Somewhere around there. And it's been growing since then. So now we are a team of 6 people in California. They're all right here, so I was just trying to count. And 2 more people in Georgia. So we are a team of 8 right now and growing, and it's just fascinating to see kind of the growth over time and the different types of projects we get to work with, and having an amazing team that can do a lot of what I used to have to do all by myself. So it's really fun.
Hi everyone, Emilie Munroe. I completely fell into this career. It was by total accident. My mom was a professional organizer when I grew up in high school, and she would work with doctors and lawyers and various professionals getting their systems in place in their offices and homes, and ultimately began working for an amazing designer that many of you know, Lisa Staprons, and she's also my cousin. So they worked together in a professional way, and I would file paperwork. I was 18, and I would show up, and I would execute the organizational systems in her studio. And I just, thought this was totally random and fun and whatever. And over time, I began to come back over like holiday breaks from college and summer breaks, and I would just show up in the studio and file, fabric and, go out to the city to bars at night, and it was very casual. Graduated from college, decided to get a real job, didn't know what I wanted to do, was a sociology major, so went to work in marketing for Turner Broadcasting downtown. It was like Atlanta, business travel to Atlanta. It felt like the big leagues, but as I kind of started working my way up there, I realized, while it was TV and TV marketing, like all of the branding was very much predetermined. Obviously, CNN, Cartoon Network, we worked with like predefined visual imagery and concepts, and it made me start thinking about interior design in a new way. And that's when I decided to go to night school at UC Berkeley Extension and take kind of AutoCAD, perspective drawing, just kind of thinking about it in the back of my mind, and ultimately left that job, went back to work for Lisa, was there for a couple years, and then decided to make the big move to San Francisco to work for Jay Jeffers. And I remember I started when he opened his studio, like literally still construction was going on when I interviewed, and I showed up on day one with 2 other brand new employees, and Alisa at her desk there, and I just felt like I had arrived. You know what I mean? It was like, this is it. This is what I'm meant to do. So over the course of 6 years with Jay, I worked my way up through his studio, and then in tandem with having my first child, ended up opening my own Studio Munroe business out of my house in the guest room with
What
the
year
little
was that in?
baby. That was 2013. So we are on the brink of the 10-year anniversary. So started really very small and deliberately because I just wasn't sure. I'd been told a lot that owning a business is very different than being a designer, which I think we'll talk about later, I hope, because it's true. Don't own a business, don't own a design firm if you want to focus on being a designer. Just don't. Anyhow, so yeah, grew and grew, and then I realized home office was not okay for the work-life balance at all because all I wanted to do was work. So that's when I got my design studio, and the team began to grow. I think we moved in November of 2014. So the company continued to grow and evolve, and then we had a huge shift this last year because we lost our lease after 7 years of our beautiful, studio down by Tartine. So that led to us becoming unmoored in a geographic space. We were a design firm with no home. So now I have purchased a commercial building that's under construction, and we are working in a portion of it and preparing, please, to move in by the end of November into our new space, our new permanent home for the next 40 years. And I'm just gonna be like rolling in there at like 80. I can't wait. And it really feels like the dawn of a new era is ahead. So we have a 6-person team now. We'll be 7 people in November. We've got someone onboarding, and I don't know. It's
Wow,
just rock and roll.
Congratulations. What a huge leap. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Noz. First off, if you end up with an empty corner in your new fabulous commercial building, we are currently in a tiny corner, so we don't take up a lot of space. So yeah, I think my story is quite similar in terms of like all of us up here are career shifters in one way or the other, but there is a part of me that knows that I was always meant to do this. It was my first love. I would go to the bookstore, and my sister, like a real human child, would go to the kids section, which was sparkly, and there was cute stuff on the floor, and there were picture books. And I was like, I'm gonna be the freak who goes over here, and I can barely read, but I look at pictures of bathrooms. That's what I do. So it was literally my only love. And I found out what the word architect was, and then I went to drafting class in high school, came home, told my dad, who was sort of at one of his many, many careers was in construction at some point. I'm going to be an architect. I know what I want to do now. And he was like, that's funny. You're not doing that. You need to, well, you're not meant to be a doctor. You can't do that. You're not meant to be a lawyer. You don't like reading. So you should do business. And I was like, okay, sure. So like a good Asian child, I had been studying hard. I liked getting good grades. So I went to business school for undergrad, ended up in marketing. I wanted desperately to move to New York, but life circumstances and the job offer I got were such that I found my way to Oakland, and I was living in San Francisco working for Clorox, and specifically the first brand they put me on was the automatic toilet bowl cleaners. So literally my first product was not even a toilet bowl cleaner, but the afterthought, like the thing for people who don't even want to think about the toilet, and I was like, I like attention. This is not for me. So then I stayed, of course. Obviously I stayed for 3.5 years, and I was terrified to leave. And then at some point I ended up in tech, and then I was like, okay, well, there's this company called House, and then I went to House, and I was like, this is perfect. I get to keep my marketing career because I'm terrified of doing anything else, but I'm really, really close to interior design. I think this is perfect. And I ended up being their little show pony. They would ship me all over the country in coach class, and then I would produce these events, and I would just talk to other interior designers. I would present to them what the benefits were of being online and putting your photographs out there, and we all know how that is going. I am a shareholder of who knows what's going to happen. We're in another recession. Thank you, House. And I was fully ready to never change my career, but I just kept talking to all these amazing people and being so in awe of the fact that they were CFOs and accountants and lawyers and former doctors and former moms, and they were all, well, not former moms, like they were still moms, but they were done. I mean, like, I hope they were still moms. And I just wanted what they had, you know, and I was sitting in my little body doing this presentation to these incredible people who had the jobs that I wanted and the businesses that I wanted, thinking, oh my God, like, it's not too late for me to change my life. I was 26, like, what a dummy. Like, oh my God, like, how embarrassing. So of course, then I just continued to stay. I just stayed in my job. And then one day, I got a chance to help decorate my friend's place. I had convinced them to buy it. They sold all kind of Bitcoin. I think they still resent me for it because it was very undervalued at the time. And I was helping decorate it at work. And I got in trouble, and I didn't care. And that was when I knew I can't stay here. Like, this is really bad. But then I was unhireable. I had not gone to UC Berkeley Extension, like these very much smarter women than me. I was like, well, I really think I should give this a shot. I think this is what I was meant to do, but I'm not hireable, right? One, I suck at having a boss, clearly, like my poor boss. And then two, I don't have any skills. What am I gonna do? Like, pretend that I'm gonna do marketing for an interior design firm? That's literally what I'm doing right now, and I don't want this. So frankly, I started the business so that I could do interior design, because there was no other way that I was gonna be allowed into this space. And that was 2014, so I'm coming upon 9 years in the spring. If you count the first 18 months as me having a business, I was just sitting on my couch being sad. And the rest is kind of history. We're me plus 3. We will be hiring, but not now. Yeah, and it's been kind of a wild journey.
One of the reasons that's so wonderful to be here today is you all three are so full of life, right? And you're so in it at this moment of your career. And again, like, it's been about a decade for each of you. And I was really hoping that today we could be of service in some way to all of you and share both kind of the abstract perspectives of how kind of right we can stay focused on our intentions every day, but also some really practical solutions as well. So our questions are going to kind of balance those. And please, obviously, if you have any at the end, we're here for you. So, just let us know. Obviously, as you work through each phase of your career, your goals change. And as you knock some down, the next ones, right, manifest. But your value system is eternal, right? So would you share maybe one or two of the fundamental things that get you out of bed every day to do what you do? I'm sure for many of you, like it is for me, because you're here at this talk, learning, right? And continually learning is one. So Kelly, would you mind starting that?
For my personal values, it's to be, of service, right? To put something out in the world that I'm proud of, that my child can be proud of, that really is improving someone's life. I'm sorry, I forgot. When we were talking about this topic, I was thinking that we have at Joy Street Design 5 core values that we kind of work through in our retreats and talk about. I'm not going to remember all of them, but they all go to the point of our purpose. We're a purpose-driven company. So our purpose is to create environments that inspire, support, and encourage people to live their best lives joyfully. And that's like a big thing that we workshopped. And I love every part of it, because we want, through the nonprofit, through our design work, we want to encourage people to really just live their best life. Like, we're about joy. We're about putting that out in the world. And we happen to do that through design, but it could be done through other ways.
And I think maybe you're the first person I've ever met in the industry who literally started a division to make that a core part of what you do. So would you share a little bit about Joy Street Initiative?
Yeah, so I believe that because of my background, without getting into it, I am here because of so many other people and so many helping hands. And so in every phase of my life, I've always tried to give back. And, different phases, it means different things. And college, I started like a little after-school nonprofit thing to teach people. I don't even remember what I was teaching them, but they loved it. And then once I was an attorney, people didn't want my time. They wanted my money, right? And so that was something I luckily had it to give at the time. And with design, I struggled to figure out what it would be, because I had less money, obviously. And I worked with Philanthropy by Design, which is a great organization here in San Francisco, and I felt like I wanted to do something similar to that, but I couldn't put my finger on it until I ended up hosting like a Stanford alum group actually it was at Ruby's place. We were gonna go in and just fix up some space, and I remember that the people who came, they were lovely, but they had never painted, they had never done anything handy. And at the end of the project, I was very much embarrassed by what we had done. And so I remember paying our contractor to go and fix the paint and do all of those things. And I remember saying to myself, and that's when I actually came up with the overall goal of Joy Street Initiative, was to give back to these shelters in a dignified way. So if I wouldn't let my Stanford alum friend come paint my house, then they shouldn't be painting the shelter's house. I don't want to put decals on your cabinets and say that you have a new kitchen, right? I wanted to do it in a way that is actually true to who we are as a design firm and allow the people to feel like we were doing it in a dignified way and not that they were getting scraps later. So we donate 10% of our profits to the nonprofit to pay for labor for the most part, and incidentals, and we hope, and most of the time, our industry partners, vendors donate the rest. We very rarely, resort to kind of fast furniture or hand-me-down kind of things, because we really want to instill that in the organizations we work with. So, for example, Ruby's Place, we now working with again. Last year, we were able to renovate one of the houses, which was 3 bedrooms and a bathroom and a living space for their new teen youth shelter. And next year, hopefully, we are redoing their kitchen to create 3 separate kitchens, a new dining room, and a new laundry room. And we have incredible support. I think almost everything has been donated thus far, even the labor for this project. And this is just going to be super impactful, because it's only 2 teen youth shelters in all of the Bay. And which is sad to say, but it's going to be a huge impact for these children.
Is there anything that you do still need if people want to help donate?
I wish Micah was here. I know that we still need a lot of building supplies, like trim. We need hardwood flooring. Well, not hardwood flooring. We're not putting hardwood flooring in there. Sorry. We need flooring, though. I have a list somewhere.
And on our new issue of Henry at henrymag.com, we have a section called Giving Back, and that's Joy Street Initiative is there. So you can just click on there, and it'll tell you how to contact Kelly if you want to donate time or furnishings.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. I can't believe that there are only 2 shelters in all of the Bay Area when we have such an unbelievable teen homeless problem. Yeah, so sad. Would you, Emilie, please share us with your energetic and abundant mindset, what it is that kind of gets you up every day and to work?
Kelly is a very hard act to follow. I think we should just take a moment to all breathe and soak you up.
Yes, yes.
And it reminds me of actually, I have two thoughts that come to mind about why I wake up every morning and do this. And one of them is one of the most profound blessings of being a business owner is that every single day is a journey of self-discovery and an opportunity to reflect on your values, your goals, your successes, and also your areas of development. And when I listen to Kelly talk, I think about areas of development for my business, you know, places we have been thriving and succeeding, but like what a fascinating perspective in a way that I could be thinking about how to have our impact be beyond our clients, beyond the growth and success of our team. So I will marinate on that area of growth. And I think, you know, each day there's some new moral conundrum or some new challenging, like emotional dilemma with a dynamic with a client or, you know, how do I feel or think about this process or procedure and the values behind it. And we're doing a bunch of gratitude initiatives, which we have several mailings of gratitude of which many people here could be receiving. However, they've been sitting for a month and a half waiting for us to write the cards. So see, another area of development, but it's there. You know, so that's the thing. You always realize every day you wake up and you have goals and you chip away at them and you have the chance to be better. And I think the second thing I would say on this topic is we too have our values that we talk about as a team and, you know, that Studio Munroe embodies. My favorite one is joie de vivre. And it's one of the reasons I wake up every day and go to work. You know, anyone, I say this to our team frequently, anyone can buy a sofa for someone. Clients can buy their own sofas. What we are selling is a feeling. We are selling how we make our clients, our colleagues, our vendors, how we make them feel. And it's so important to me that we laugh every day, that we bring a lightness, a joy, a vibrancy to this crazy world. You know, it's gnarly out there, and we want people's homes to be a place where they can just, I don't know, live their best life and rejuvenate and feel safe and inspired, and we want to bring that energy to them with the people and the designs that we bring into their home. So there you go.
No, absolutely. And I remember in one interview in particular, you had advised, you know, people to, in their practice, remember to take care of their spirit, obviously. But the fifth gear, it seems to me, with interior designers, is when you are able to create the feeling, right? The atmosphere. You all obviously can create brilliant spaces, but isn't it special when you walk into a space and you can really feel that? And I always feel like maybe, and I'm not a designer, but maybe that's part of the goal, but yes. And you define joie de vivre. Every time I would walk into Jay Jeffers' office, I would hear Emilie before I would see her, right? Always with the laugh, and so, yes, that's a blessing you bring to all of us. So, Noz, would you share kind of, one of the things I admire a lot about Noz is that she is so what's the word? You are using your platform as a way to amplify all kinds of causes, from social justice every day in your social media and beyond. So tell us how you get inspired.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like, I'm just like a little baby pants over here. I'm like, I don't know what my values are. I like did a workshop where I theoretically came up with something like in 2019, I need to do this. So I'm like, this is very good. But yeah, I mean, just personally, I absolutely practice gratitude. Like it's just so easy. I don't know, like it's very simple. I think I just try to stay connected to like the miraculousness of the world that we live in. Because there's so much darkness and that always exists and coexists, right? Like I think there's so frequently a temptation to believe that like over there is really bad and over here is really good, and it's not the case, right? Every single one of us every single day is going through our own traumas, our own recovery, our own despair, and our own joy, and to be able to sort of like consciously connect with that, even in little things, like literally the other day, like 3 days ago, I like was very tired, and I finally recently got like a burr grinder to make my own coffee, and I like pushed a button, and then I poured coffee into my machine, and I literally looked at the coffee maker, and I was like, this is incredible. like, I just made my own coffee. Like, this is so, like, this is insane. Like, how do I get to just have a life where everything is this easy, you know? And I think about, like, hot water. I think about, like, being able-bodied all the time, partly because I am very lucky to have such amazing friends and people who I absolutely adore, and a couple of them live life with very severe physical disabilities, and I think all the time about the fact that I can do things as quickly and as fast as I can because my hands work, and I have both of them, and they're dexterous, and I can see with both eyes, and that's the only way that I'm able to do this world. And I think about blind design because there's an architect who I really admire who, like, lost his sight halfway through the peak of his career, and he figured out how to sort of, like, use the way that he knew aesthetics to design spaces that were accessible for sight-impaired people. So sort of using auditory, using tactile cues to know where to walk, where not to walk, the sort of vibrational stuff that people who echolocate through the world think about, like thinking about design across all the senses when so much of us sighted people are like, this is all it is. And I don't know, like that's the stuff that gets me out of bed personally. I can't speak for my whole team. Like they stay employed, so I presume that I'm offering value that gets them out of bed besides a paycheck, because we do amazing things and we love our clients and we're very lucky to be able to be maximally creative almost with every single project at this point. But that's, I don't know, for me it's just, I just try to stay very grounded to the very simple things because life is so very complicated and so very painful at the same time. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and 100%. And two, when you're someone who gets spilkus when things are going really well, right? Because we've all been through our own personal traumas at different levels. So when things start going smoothly, you're like, oy, like, So I find like the practice of gratitude, right, is what offsets that. Like maybe I shouldn't feel guilty or scared about having a nice moment in life, right? So gratitude always, right? And then there was this really great phrase, if I may recommend to all of you, there's an incredible podcast that I'm sure you already know called On Being with Krista Tippett. And she speaks with people in all kinds of different practices and traditions, and it's just about sort of sharing the wisdom that they have. They might be doctors, they might be physicists or poets. But one phrase she used the other day was ordinary abundance. And it was just what you're talking about with the coffee machine or your child or your dog or whatever it might be, right? Just like, wow, this moment of privilege of getting to enjoy that as a healthy person, or God, not more spilkus. So let's look at, if we may, the practical for a second, to the systems or practices you've put in place to enable you to kind of realize those that purpose or those values smoothly and successfully. And Kelly, we're going to start with you again because you are such a badass in this area. It was so great talking with you about all you've done to put that in place.
I think coming from a law firm where, you know, everything is super structured makes me just love that stuff. And I also think you're able to be, for me, I'm able to be more creative when things are orderly. As Emilie said, running a business is a completely different beast. And I would have said unwanted opportunities to review yourself and your deficiencies. And so what we ended up doing as we got larger, I'm sure one of my designers here who's been with me the longest, we didn't have many processes. We kind of knew what we were doing, but then during the pandemic, and then as we grew and added more people, it really was like every man for themselves. And I was like, I used to do it this way. And I'm like, well, you didn't tell us that, right? It was very kind of loosey-goosey. And we hired a part-time operations manager, and she came in and put everything down on paper and created a process manual that, you know, I would say gets followed sometimes. But it's there. It forced me to sit down and think about what we're doing. And that's kind of grown. We also have we use a lot of different technologies to make sure our projects run smoothly, and we just are always looking for something new. I will say, I definitely know one of my team members wants me to stop always trying to find the better program, but we're definitely always looking for something to improve the process, to improve our presentation to the client completely, like not the actual presentation of the stuff, but like how we're charging clients a lot of money and we want to be on top of things. So we really are very mindful of that. Right now, I realize that we have processes for all of our, how our projects run through procurement, but we don't have processes for like really how do you ask for a day off. We don't have a lot of smaller things, so that's gonna be the next round of making sure things are just codified, because it's difficult as the owner of the business to be mindful and not be frustrated when things don't get done right, because it's not fair to the employees if you're not laying out what actually should be happening. So I'm just trying to be a much better boss in that way to make it clear, and so then I can, get mad when they don't do it.
Did you say also that you had established, which I think is amazing, I'd be so grateful if someone did this for me, flow charts for each role?
Oh,
Or
for
person?
each, so this, I think it's this year, we started taking our roles. So let's say you're the senior designer, you obviously had things that you were supposed to do when I hired you. But then we started adding just one more thing at the bottom that says metrics. It's essentially, in my world, in my opinion, I should say, saying this is what makes you successful in this role. And therefore, they sign it, I sign it, and then they can say, I'm looking back at this, I did all of those things, or I didn't do those things, and there's a conversation. And it really, I think, clears up kind of what, sometimes job descriptions are loosey-goosey, and they don't really say what you need to do, and this provides that kind of added thing. We just started that this year, so we'll see kind of how, as end-of-year reviews come, if it was super helpful. But for me, I wanted, and I've had a couple people ask, what is success in this job? And I felt like by putting those 5, 6 bullet points, it indicated what success is. And sometimes success is putting your time in on a weekly basis, right? That's literally one of them. Checking Asana to make sure you do but that's still part of the job that probably wasn't in the job description.
Time billing.
We luckily are
Not,
flat fee.
no, what?
We're flat fee, so we just keep time so that we can make sure we're not losing money on the flat fees. But still, the longer you're away, I used to bill in 6-minute increments. So the longer you're away from it, the longer you just forget, and it's harder to capture that information.
How many dinners have gotten canceled on a Friday because your designer friend had to put in all of their hours before the weekend, or they were going to get in serious trouble? Anyway, that's brilliant. I wish I would love to have that too, because if it's on paper, you've both signed it, you're accountable to each other, then it just makes it easier, right? Yeah. I want to just jump to Noz for a second, because I loved that you had the opposite perspective when we spoke.
By opposite perspective, what she means very, very elegantly is I don't have good processes. I am sort of this all the time, right? So, I know how to run a business. I'm not being a lunatic, but I actively get very distressed when things are structured, and I actually for a very long time wouldn't know when, it was a whole thing. My poor husband, he would be like, are we seriously having this conversation about whether to go out, have takeout, or go to the grocery store and cook at 7 p.m. tonight? I don't like structure. So that said, I have to run a business, and so what I've realized is the two things that I can offer productively to this conversation are one thing that sort of fell into our opportunity set during the pandemic, both because I was very sad one of my teammates, who's still on the team and is moving again, was announcing to me at the top of 2020 she was going to move away, such that we had to figure out how to have my one single employee be a remote employee. So we figured out all kinds of systems like cloud-based everything, and presenting during a pandemic virtually, and being able to provide all of these assets that are live and active if we change them so the client can see everything. Cloud everything was very much important to us, and I don't think that's particularly special or new, but we designed everything around our presentation system to be able to do that when we're not physically anywhere near the client, because of the fact that so early on in my having employees, we were in 2 different places all the time, and she had to be there. So that ended up being kind of incredible, because then during the pandemic, everyone realized if my employee can be in Texas while I'm in New York, I suppose my designer could be in San Francisco. So we now operate in 5 different metros, which is kind of wild, and they're not nearby. There's LA, there's New York, there's Tahoe here, and then Houston is coming up, which is wild. So figuring out how to be able to have a business that pretends like we're national when there's actually only 4 of us here in the Bay Area, and now my one person who moved before I moved back is moving to South Carolina. Like figuring that piece out, how to run something where it doesn't actually super matter geographically where certain people are at any particular time was really cool. And actually I think that's it. That's all I have to offer, yeah.
I need to add some proper nouns to this conversation because I'm really into processes and procedures. And I would love everyone to have these resources. So first of all, my parents were in town last weekend and we're sitting around the table. My dad looks at me, he goes, Emily, I've never met a person in my life who pays more people to give her advice. And I just want to embrace that. Like, you need to know as a leader, you need to have experts that you lean into because, you know, you're here, you're a guidepost, and you're only one. So I'm going to talk about some experts. One of them's here today. Her name is Christina Chapin. Where's Christina? She's amazing. Avid Operations. She is my policies, procedures, like database resources. She has taken me from I'm a total tech granny. I just hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I cannot tell you more. The screens, the texting, all of it, and like brought me into the future. So we use Asana. I had like an Excel that I would email employees with action items. Oh my God. She was like, Emily, and she just held my hand and like walked me over this bridge. I was like, I don't know about this login and password. Asana, incredible. Our productivity, I mean, could have doubled based on having this kind of action item to-do list management. Now, Trainual is our policies and procedures database, also thanks to Christina. I've probably invested almost 6 figures in developing this database of processes and procedures all the way down to how to ask for PTO. We can talk about this, Kelly. I might have something to contribute.
No, I just
to
said,
your
I told them to
amazing
write it down when you
business.
said it, and then when you said the price, I was like, don't write that down.
No. You don't spend that on it. I'm discussing like the time invested internally, like just in thinking about and writing down. You make a commitment. You're worth it. You got to pay to play, girl. Pay to play. So, you know, this, I mean, now it all started one holiday season. We were doing client gifts, and we had the loveliest intern who I said, hey, will you go get boxes for the $350 cutting board that we're going to deliver to a client? And she went to U-Haul and then used a razor blade to cut the box from U-Haul to size and used duct tape to wrap it up around the cutting board. And I came in and said, we cannot deliver a chopped up, duct taped U-Haul box to our client. And I just thought, how did this happen? And one of my 29 business coaches said, where is it written down where you purchase your holiday gift wrap? And I go, really, do I need to write down that maybe we go to Paper Source? Like maybe like it's not used, we don't use silver duct tape. She said, if you expect people to read your mind, you will go crazy. You got to write these things down. It helps you feel soothed and be productive, and it helps your team succeed. And like, it's a beautiful thing, and we just thrived from there, and it was my fault. I didn't give directions, I didn't set expectations, and we fixed it, and we learned, and now we're just so much better for it. And it was a huge growth opportunity for me. So I cannot impart more the importance of having these systems, if they soothe you, which they do for me, in place, because it really can help be the scaffolding for growth.
And it's that moment, I guess, that you said every day when you're taught a new moral, if you're presented with a new moral conundrum or this kind of systemic conundrum, it's just basically the world telling you have to sort of like cut your adrenaline and sit and take it slow for a moment, right? Like we really have to slow down and figure it out, which is so painful sometimes, but you know, that's what the universe is asking of us. So, you guys, so it's 10:45. I have some other questions, but generally this is where we would pause and obviously ask if you have any. So I can either keep going, or do you guys have anything you want to ask now? Only for a couple more minutes, and you all need to get coffee and donuts. Okay. May I ask each of you if you have the most worthwhile consultant that you'd recommend investing in, and I empathize with your father because sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and go, it cannot take this many people to like make a life run properly. And I'm not even talking about expensive consultants. I'm just talking about like all of our support system, our friends, my God, it takes a lot to keep it on the rails. But you've kind of shared some.
Yeah, I'm probably, Emily, I might be, we might have a contest about who you're paying, how many people.
We're paying some of the same people. I know that.
And so I love to hire an expert. I love to farm off stuff. And so I have a lot of people that we also work with. I think for each stage of the business, it's kind of hard to say one person. I remember when it was just me, I hired a business coach that had nothing to do with interior design. He gave me this Excel spreadsheet that was like, he called it forecasting and something else, and I was like, this is magical. Like, it changed my entire view of my projects and how I saw things. But he was only, I didn't hire him again, right? Every coach to me is for a certain amount of time. And so right now I'm actually working with like a life coach, more alignment coach, to find some kind of quote unquote balance between growing the firm, having a family, moving across the country, and all of those things where it's overwhelming a lot. And so at this moment in my life, because she's part therapist, I would say that she is the most important part because she's helping me clarify what we're really trying to do as opposed to just chasing growth for growth's sake or what have you. But I've had several other coaches, some design focused and some not, that really have helped. And so my point would just be to embrace it. You're worth the money. Sometimes it takes a minute. Even the woman I'm working with now, I told her no last year when she gave me the number. That you have to think about it's an investment in yourself and an investment in your team so that even you can present yourself to your team in a better way.
And I have two, besides also recommending everybody have their own talk therapist, if that works for you, because I love mine, I adore her. She started a couples therapist, and now she's mine alone. I'm selfish. But I have two names to drop. I can't express how grateful I am for both of them. I'm actively working with both. The first is, do you guys know Sean Lowe, who does the advice column in Business of Home? So I'm working with him. He says that he's very confidential with clients, so I will tell everybody that I'm working with him, and we're working together on a lot of different things. But one of them, kind of like what Emily was just saying, is one of the reasons why my business has grown in the ways that I want it to, he says, is because I did that, because I'm here. But without me reinforcing things unofficially ad hoc with our clients whenever things come up, the business does not actually, it's not designed or written in a way that supports the fact that I'm enforcing these things. So he's sort of working on my proposal, on the contract, on the communication, on how to sort of design in writing what we do, as opposed to me just sort of being semi-vague because I know our clients want to work with us, and then figuring out how to communicate with them when they sort of start going off the rails. So Sean's incredible. And then there's also Patrick Bell, who's kind of everyone's best known secret. He's the worst kept secret in the design industry here. But he's sort of unofficial. I call him my uncle brother because he's nearing 70, but also we're friends, and I adore him. So we've been working together for about a year and a half. And we basically just talk about different ways for me to grow my thinking about where opportunity is, how to make good connections, where to find those connections, how to know that you're in a connection that you're happy about. And I call him my 24-karat access to the way that white men think, right? It's really cool. And I say that because I, as a woman of color, was raised in a certain way where I'm oh, I can't do that, or oh, that's impolite, or right? And that's not the way that we need to be. And so, for example, there was one time where I was going to thank the PR team that ran the Kips Bay House, and I had a few of their email addresses because they were the ones working on the ground. He was like, well, are you gonna email Susan Magrino? And I was like, well, I don't have her email address. He's like, well, then just guess what it is. Look at the other emails that are out there and then copy the format. It's probably her email address. So I did it, and he was right, and she was the first one to respond 30 minutes later. And I was like, this is so big, but it's little tiny things that illuminate for me all the time how limiting my own way of thinking is if I'm only given my default and I'm not being challenged to think bigger picture about what opportunity looks like. So those are my two folks.
Can I say one more thing on this topic? Please, permission to speak. Okay, so I remember a million years ago, I was probably 20, I don't know, early 20s. I saw this segment from Oprah, so listen up, people, where she talked about the issue with education is that when you're in school, you know, you get A's, B's, and C's. And the way school works is you're supposed to take your B's and C's, work as hard as you can on those, and make them into A's, right? Like, that's how school works. But then you flip in your professional life, and you've got to change your mindset and instead figure out, how do I only do my A's and eliminate the B's and C's from my workload, right? And a lot of discussion about consultants like surrounds that idea, like how can I take the areas, whether it's processes or business development, that aren't my strength and find someone to support me. But I also want to add, you need to look at what is my A, what do I love more than anything, and who can support me to taking that to the next level? And this is my shout out for Rich Padine, my publicist, because there's nothing I love more than interior design. I love talking about this job. I love speaking, I love writing, I just love getting the work out there. It fills my heart with joy, it makes my mind like feel alive, like how do I explain this technical yet creative craft? How do I talk about this business and the growth and the energy and all of it? And to have the opportunity to work with him to really invest in that side of my passion has just taken my heart and my company to absolutely the next level. So don't forget your favorite things too when you think about who you want to collaborate with.
I just wanted to say, funny enough, that what Noz was saying, the three of us met for the first time at a House Beautiful photo shoot. And the reason I was at that photo shoot was maybe 6 months before that, I was like, I just literally guessed Joe Salt's information. I was like, it's probably Joe at House Beautiful or whatever it was. And I was like, hey, because I emailed everybody on the masthead in fairness, but I was like, hey, I feel like I should be in House Beautiful. Do you? Here's a project. Let me know. They never let me know. But she was like, that's how I got on their radar, right? It was literally, I still do that, honestly. I will guess a lot of people's emails and get responses back. And it's all about putting yourself out there. And so I thought that was really funny because literally that's how we all met. Yeah. And now, what is it, 3 years ago? Yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah. So it was just random and you just gotta do, a lot of times that's what, you know, some of it is hiring people, and I've hired publicists and things like that in the past, so I'm not saying it for that purpose, but a lot of it is like, you know, at first you're your own publicist, and then you get bigger, and then you can kind of have other people help you.
Yeah, absolutely, totally.
Thank you, guys. When you could be off developing systems and hiring people and doing your projects, for being here this morning with all of us. And I think you're all also huge examples of how you model best practices and behavior. I think you're always, whenever I see you, you're kind. You have abundance mindset, so you're always about like, how can I lift other women up and how can I open doors for them and give them my resources? So I think I'm just so incredibly grateful to know all of you and to be able to be with you today to share that. So do any of you have any questions? No pressure, but if you do, yeah. Can everybody hear? Oh, it's just sort of yeah, oh, you were breathe.
Sure. I can answer the first chunk of it. The question was basically, one, how do you find good staff? And then two, sort of how do you manage your time and the boundaries between work and personal life, especially for fellow parents. I'm not one, I don't know why I said fellow. Her fellow parents, like being a part of your kid's life and not feeling guilty, it sounds like. So with regard to the first one, and this goes back to the social media thing, I am maybe an overshare on social media with regard to the way that I write my posts. I bait people with pretty pictures, and then I talk about what's actually important to me in the caption. Not everyone's gonna read it, but that's fine. A lot of people do, and I just think it's very important to sort of like communicate through my social media channels who I am and what's important to me, what are my values, what am I paying attention to politically, who are the clients I want to attract, and who are the people who share my values, who want to work with me. So I've been very lucky that I put a lot into that, and then I got it back by way of people who wanted to work with me. So when I put out a note that says, I'm hiring for this position, I don't have to go on like jobseeker.com or like ZipRecruiter, which I've done and I got really bad results anyways. Like it's very wonderful that I can put that out and then people will share it to their friends who either know that they've wanted to work with me or they think they do, or they think there's some kind of a kinship. And my best team members have come by way of finding me on social media. So that's wild. And then as far as boundaries, what I can say is because I don't have a lot of like actual real demands on my time from other important small humans, there is a very easy scenario in which I just become my business 24/7. And it actually started to eat me alive. I had like very bad anxiety and depression in spite of growing success for a while. And I realized that like I was just in my own way. So it was just a lot of practice of like, I don't look at email or Instagram at these different times. So I like, and then I set up a separate Instagram, which nobody knows about. There's the jewelry one, which is kind of a stupid secret, but then there's a real actual secret one that no one knows about where I follow meme accounts and I follow my friends and I follow dogs and rescue organizations. And then I can just sort of be nobody on the internet, and there's no pressure to be online, right? Because if nobody knows that I'm on Instagram and nobody knows that I'm on my phone because I'm not doing anything with Slack or email, like that's actually very empowering. And that took maybe like an entire year of just telling myself like, don't open your email, like don't open it. Because you're in your own way. Like you can tell yourself you're gonna create boundaries, but if you break your own boundaries, then you lose confidence in yourself and the fact that you didn't put yourself first. And so what I'm working on now is just sort of like, how do I put my health and wellness first? I figured out the mental and emotional stuff, and then the physical piece is still completely off the rails since the beginning of this year. I like got so cute about like eating well last year, and then now everyone's back with parties and donuts and cocktail hour, and we're figuring that out in the new world.
The team you build, and my team is here, is your most precious resource. I mean, it is the most precious resource, more than any client you get, any lead on a project, and I have no secrets. I don't have any special tips. It's so hard. I mean, it's just been luck and beautiful people and your own growth process and you know, people, you have amazing people and they move on because they're incredible people and they decide to have new careers and you hope you can flourish and grow them, or they have to, you know, it's just a fluid, lucky, beautiful thing that you work hard to try to get right, and you get it right sometimes and it doesn't work out other times, and you just forge forward. So embrace them, love them, like just like nurture the little crew or big crew, and you know, I wish I knew more. If you find out the tips, tell me. Regarding work-life balance, I mean, all I'd say, I've said this many times in public, like I learned very young that I can never tell a lie because I talk too much. Like I won't be able to track them. Like I just can't. I have to just be honest or not say anything because I can't like fib. And I think it's the same way with my work-life balance. Like I'm just the same person at work as I am in my personal life, and I don't have a line. Like I love the school we go to. I'm Emilie from Studio Munroe at school with the kids. I'm Emilie from Studio Munroe with my kids. Like little bunnies, I'm gonna go sit on a stage today. Mama's gonna go do this. Like off I go. Like. And that's been able to be enough for me because I'm like you. I mean, it's just I live, breathe all of this all the time. So all I could do was try to curate an environment where it was authentically me in all the little places, and then forget about ever having it be a balance. Because here I am. Yeah.
I think creating a team is hard. But I also have my longest employee I got from Craigslist, and if she ever left, we're shutting down the firm. And all of the women in my team are fun, smart, and really love, design, or engage. And I think part of it is I'm an excellent judge of character. No, I'm joking. But I actually think that I am an open book too, and when you interview with me, I literally had an interview at a wine shop the other day because the coffee shop was empty. So I feel like I present in such a way that you know what you're getting when you interview with me. And because I am the head of the firm or the face of the firm, only certain people are interested in that. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And so I think that because of that, we have created a type of environment where, we'll stop and pop a bottle of champagne in the middle of the day, or we hope that the clients don't drink their champagne in their presentation. You know what I mean? We do things like that. We just started doing a color class, so I'm actually actively trying to be better about doing more fun things since I'm not in the office all the time. But I think that we've created an environment where they can have fun with or without me, and we also, get our job done. Ultimately, we're not curing cancer. There are no design emergencies, and we should do the work that we're paid to do, but we shouldn't overthink it. In terms of balance, there's no such thing as balance. I think you work hard when you need to work hard. You parent hard when you need to parent hard. And I actually don't have any concerns on taking time away. Like I said, I just don't think there are emergencies enough for us to be overly concerned. And if you have clients that wouldn't understand that, clients get fired, right? Like there are things you can do to make sure that you can have the mental space and give the mental space to your team to not think everything's an emergency. Like I said, we got to get our work done, but it shouldn't be, the client wants this and now you need to do certain things.
Are there other questions? I smell cookies, and we're supposed to be at Benjamin Moore for coffee and yummies and haiku. So thank you so much for giving us your time and attention today, and I hope...
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so
What a
very much.
gift.
Hope it was worth your time. Thank you. Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hi.
Please join us in Benjamin Moore.
If you want to come up afterwards and just ask, then everyone can go, please do, yeah.
I just wanted to say that I think the three of you together are fantastic. You really should be a roadshow and go to every design center in the country and do this same talk. I thought it was absolutely amazing. Very compelling, you're all different from each other, and yet there's commonality and synchronicity, and I think it was absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much for your time.
It's a great Charlie's Angels group.
Photo.